And I got
What's that chick that got raped up there upstate? That young lady? Tawana Brawley, what the hell is that about?
New York State is now the capital of racial violence.
We are not going to let this girl be the scapegoat of a corrupt system.
We want to show the world how low down, dongus, and callous the state of New York is.
The media now has released that Tawana identified Chris.
What's the evidence, Dave?
Tawana's voice on the tape identifying Chris.
We have the facts and the evidence that an assistant district attorney and a state trooper did this.
We closed the bridge, the court, and this building, and Main Street.
A teenager named Tawana Brawley offered the portrait of an innocent victim of a hideous and brutal racial attack. Photographed clinging to her teddy bear, her story of violation and shame stirred the deepest compassion and concern in those who heard it.
The Brawley report is tough, detailed, and blunt. On the key question of whether Tawana was raped, the grand jury says no. There was no medical or forensic evidence that a sexual assault was committed on Tawana Brawley.
If a 15-year-old girl had been forcibly raped or sodomized by multiple assailants over a 4-day period, there is a high probability that medical or forensic evidence would have been found.
Special segment tonight, the Tawana Brawley case.
She was found wrapped in a plastic bag, by some accounts, sexually assaulted.
The 16-year-old cheerleader said she'd been abducted 4 days earlier and had been repeatedly raped and sodomized.
Let Miss Brawley represent what we're not going to stand for as parents, as Americans, and as human beings.
Because known sexual assault activist, known women's activist, known male feminist Bill Cosby actually offered a $25,000 reward to catch whoever was responsible.
The cutting in the sneaker, clearly it was done when the no foot was in the sneaker. The jeans she had on were burnt in the crotch, but she wasn't burnt there.
As for the kidnap story, the report says no. It says the teenager actually stayed in a place she knew well. Jurors found Tawana Brawley had significant contact with her former apartment at some time during her 4-day disappearance.
Carpet fibers, consistent with those from apartment 19A, were found on the jeans, on the blouse, and the shoe Miss Brawley was wearing when discovered on November 28.
What about that gang of white men, the alleged attackers? The grand jury says no. No gang, no men. And jurors point out Tawana Brawley never provided a detailed account of her allegations or named her alleged assailants to anyone.
Her advisors have said a lot the past few months, charging that white local officials were involved in the crime, not to mention the mafia, the Ku Klux Klan, and the Irish Republican Army.
We have the facts and the evidence that an assistant district attorney and a state trooper did this. They ran a story where Mr. Pagonis fixed licenses for liquor with the mafia.
About Fishkill officer Harry Chris Jr., who died shortly after Tawana was found, the report says no involvement. The death of Harry Chris Jr. was a suicide completely unrelated to Tawana Brawley.
Defending this man. Recently, even after the shenanigans with him and the other soldiers.
That's a lot of crap.
No, brother, you have your time.
That's a lot of crap.
Brother,
I have not deceived my family, my advisors, and most of all, my people.
And this really worked in the press, and it really worked with our celebrities. Years after the hoax, or a few years after the hoax, Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing came out. And graffitied in the background of one of the scenes of this movie is Tawana Told the Truth. This was after an investigation revealed that Tawana Brawley lied about every aspect of the story. Bill Cosby, that advocate for women that we talked about earlier, did not withdraw the reward that he put out for the capture of Tawana Brawley's attackers because he still backed the case even after it was exposed as a hoax. That's how much of an imprint on our pop culture it was. And it goes even further than that. Al Sharpton and Brawley both appeared in a Public Enemy music video together. This is how big this case was nationwide. This was like Jussie Smollett times the Trayvon Martin case added together with a little bit of the Duke lacrosse on top of it.
Was Stephen Pagonis involved? Jurors say no. He had no connection with any incident involving Tawana Brawley during those 4 days.
They are frauds from the beginning.
Perry McKinnon, you couldn't see Sharpton without seeing Perry McKinnon in those days. And he was with him at all times. And, you know, he's a decorated war hero. He's all these other things.
This whole situation is not about Tawana Brawley. It's about Mason, Maddox, and Sharpton sort of taking over the town Their exact words were, "We beat this, we will be the biggest in New York." Tomorrow morning, Perry McKinnon's family is going to reveal that he has...
He has some mental problems. I don't want to waste our 6.5 minutes on all of them. I will say...
No, I don't want you to waste 6.5 minutes.
All right, fine. He has some mental problems. Mr. McKinnon has a history of medical disorders in terms of mental problems.
Let's take the outside chance McKinnon is telling the truth. And by the way, nobody corroborated that. If I say that if I win for president when I ran, I'll be the biggest black guy in America, does that really mean that I perpetrated a lie?
I was angry, I was frustrated, I was upset, I was surprised. I could just go on for hours. You just can't believe what it's like. It's unbelievable.
When did you first find out that this whole thing was happening?
I found out, I think it was March 14th or 13th, it was on a Sunday, and I just started receiving phone calls. People were telling me, what'd you think about the press conference? And I had no idea what they were talking about, and later on that day I discovered that they were talking about Maddox and how he had accused me publicly on TV.
They were accusations without foundation.
He has eyed Tawana Brawley before.
But they were accusations that would change his life.
Do you think it'll ever really be completely over for you?
No. I think I'll always be tainted. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who will always wonder if I had something to do with this, or if maybe there was a cover-up, even in spite of the fact that Mr. Abrams and the grand jury has concluded that there's nothing to Tawana's story.
The young prosecutor plans to file a lawsuit against Brawley and her advisors, and he says he also plans to move, though he wouldn't say when or where.
Do you regret at all, Rev, what you put some of the men through in that case, though, the guys who turned out to be innocent?
You know, people ask you today that I apologize to George Zimmerman. Why would you regret standing up for someone?
Not to George Zimmerman.
No, but
I'm talking about Tawana Brawley.
I'm absolutely talking about Tawana Brawley. Brawley made a claim. Bill Cosby and everybody rallied around it before I did. Why would I say that I should not come to the defense of someone who had made a claim and those that had been accused never would come forth before in the grand jury at that time that we got involved?
But knowing what you know now, that it was a fabrication,
well, what do I know now?
hoax?
That a grand jury didn't believe her? A jury didn't believe Trayvon Martin's family.
So you believe...
I believe that there was enough reason to go to court on that case, which is what we advocate, just like I believed in other cases. And once it had gone to court, it would have had to have been the jury. You got to remember, the same prosecutor came after me on situations I knew was wrong. Why would I believe the jury that he used there?
So you don't believe that the Tawana Brawley case was a hoax?
I believe that the basis of our involvement of saying that this prosecutor should have moved forward and brought this into court was absolutely the right position to take, and that was the position we took.
3 black college students had claimed they were attacked because of their race, but now they're facing charges because police claim that this surveillance video tells a very different story. ABC's Gio Benitez is on the scene in Albany, New York. Good morning, Gio.
George, good morning to you. Police say they've enhanced that video and talked to witnesses, and now they firmly believe that the girls are lying. This morning, 3 college students under fire for what's seen in the surveillance video.
Hi, yes, I'd like to report the fact that me and my friends were just jumped on a bus for being black.
Just after 1 a.m. on January 30th, Ariella Gudio, Alexis Briggs, and Aisha Burwell, all 20-year-old college students at the University at Albany, claiming they were the only black students on a city bus when they were called racial slurs and hit by several white males. They say they were surrounded by students and felt threatened. They fought back. 2 of the girls called 911.
It was a racially fueled crime. We were 3 black girls jumped by like 20 white people.
University staff and students immediately rallying behind the girls. But within hours of that rally, an Instagram video posted online showing what looks like the girls approaching the men first. The university and city immediately launching an investigation.
I ask all of us to not rush to judgment.
Leading to the release of this surveillance video from inside the bus that night, witnesses on board telling police it wasn't the men, but the women who were the aggressors.
It definitely looks like it wasn't what the girl said it was that happened, and actually it looks like the opposite.
But the girls maintain they are the victims. This week, all 3 girls in court pleading not guilty to charges of third-degree assault. Civil rights activists now concerned about what this case could mean for future racial crimes.
When there's another incident or a similar incident, will the community believe this? And that is very troubling for many people.
Investigators believe they have the right suspects in jail, with Eric Black here at this one now charged with capital murder. But Robert Cantrell was practically convicted on social media. His family called us to say enough is enough.
That breaks my heart.
As a mother of 3 young children, Haley Cantrell was shaken by the murder of Jasmine Barnes.
To know that a baby was murdered for what? For nothing.
But never did she think her uncle would be dragged into it.
He's not a murderer, especially not to a child.
Despite the arrests of 2 men identified as suspects, Cantrell says as recent as today, there have been threatening comments on her Facebook page because of a link drawn between her uncle, Robert Cantrell, and the sketch the Harris County Sheriff's Office released last Thursday.
When I first seen it, I'm not gonna lie, like I teared up.
As a white man with blue eyes, the resemblance was uncanny. Friday, in a now deleted Twitter post, activist Sean King, with 1 million followers, spread it even farther, writing, quote, "We've had 20 people call or email us and say he is a racist, violent, expletive, and always has been. Just tell me everything you know." Haley says the threats like this one,
I heard someone is going to rape, torture, and murder the women and children in your family,
have been constant.
I just want everyone to, back off.
Haley knows her uncle isn't a Boy Scout. In fact, he's in jail right now on a long list of felonies and got out of prison just before Hurricane Harvey. Sean King did not respond to repeated requests for comment. Haley, who fears for her uncle and her family's safety, wants this to spread too. He is innocent of this terrible crime.
The truth is out. It had nothing to do with us, nothing to do with my uncle at all.
A serious claim from the Timmonsville NAACP president. On Facebook last month, he posted that he was racially profiled by a town police officer. However, a Florence community activist says the officer's body cam video doesn't match up with what the civil rights organization leader says happened. ABC 15's Tanya Brown spoke with the man who reviewed video from that night.
How are you?
This is body cam video from a traffic stop last month by a Timmonsville police officer. It shows the officer pulling over Timmonsville NAACP president, Reverend Gerard Moultrie, for a traffic violation and problems with his license plate. Moultrie posted about the encounter on Facebook back on April 13th that he was racially profiled because he was black, driving a Mercedes and heading home in his nice neighborhood. In the posting, Moultrie said he was asked if there were any drugs in the car. Moultrie says in the post, the officer told him he could have taken him to jail and was doing him a favor. But the body cam video shows a very pleasant conversation between Moultrie and the officer.
Don't believe it, man.
Florence community activist Timothy Waters requested a copy of the video from Timmonsville Police through Freedom of Information. Waters tells me he was misled until he saw the actual video.
Well, once I got a copy of that body cam, it's as if he made the whole story up. And I felt like he set us back 100 years, because think about all of the racial profiling cases that are true.
Moultrie told me he can't comment on the matter. He asked me to talk with 2 other Timmonsville NAACP officers who say they still support Moultrie as their leader, even though they haven't seen the body cam video.
Based on Reverend Moultrie's character, and I wouldn't serve as his vice president if I feel like he was a liar. Based on the integrity of Reverend Moultrie, I really feel that he does not have a reason to lie about what he saw, because he doesn't have any ill intent against anyone. I've spent a lot of time with him, and I just know his character.
Moultrie has since taken down that Facebook post. Timmonsville Police Chief Billy Brown says he's pretty upset, but glad the body cam video is there to show what really happened. In Timmonsville,
I don't give two what you guys think.
The president of the NAACP, who we think is a black woman who says she's the victim of hate crimes, might not be black. That seems like a misrepresentation.
I can understand.
2 people got into an argument at a supermarket. In a sane society, that would be the end. No one would have heard about it, and those involved would have moved on with their lives. This is no longer a sane society, however. So when a fellow shopper told Georgia lawmaker Erica Thomas she had too many items to use the express checkout lane, she immediately accused him of being evil and attacked him on the basis of his race. Watch.
People are getting really out of control with this.
with this white privilege. And this white man comes up to me and says, "You lazy son of a bitch. The hate is real." And for that white man to come up to me and call me a son of a bitch and lazy and go back where I came from because he had a couple items and he wanted to get in front of me. And he said I had 20 items in a 10-item line. What will make you that angry to yell at somebody like that? Y'all see Ilhan Omar and y'all see all this stuff about send her back and stuff like that, but it's getting out of control. There's so much hate in this world, and it's being incited by our president every single day.
So the press, having forgotten the last 2 or 3 or was it 4 dozen fake hate crimes, immediately believed Thomas completely and blamed the administration for creating a climate of hate. They would still believe her now if the man she accused didn't come forward on his own. But he did come forward. His name is Eric Sparks. And he's not a member of the Klan, it turns out. He is Cuban, and he's a Democrat. He's an avid Democrat, a liberal Democrat. And he says that Thomas lied completely about what happened. Thomas didn't even fight back. In an interview with local television station, she had backtracked, and she said that actually Sparks never said, "Go back where you came from." Huh? But it didn't matter to the New York Times. Good journalists are supposed to state the key facts first. The New York Times does the opposite. Their headline said this, quote, "Go back where you came from," Georgia lawmaker says she was told. But actually, she said she was not told that. In the story, the Times waited 14 paragraphs before telling you, the reader, that Thomas had actually retracted her phony accusation.
A modern-day witch hunt that saw innocent lives ruined with false claims of racism. In mid-2018, a young, privileged student at an elite progressive women's college in Northampton that costs upwards of $80,000 a year claimed that she was a victim of racism. Umo Kanute claims she was harassed by a cafeteria worker, college janitor and security officer for simply eating while black. Despite the videos she posted of the incident showing the workers being awfully polite and non-confrontational, Kanute nevertheless claims she was deeply traumatised because she was accused of trespassing.
This young lady calls the entire situation outrageous, and she's sharing her story so that no other woman of color goes through what she went through. I'm just so upset. This is Umu Kanute. She's a sophomore at the college working as a teacher's assistant and residential advisor over the summer. She was confronted by campus police officers.
I see the cop walk in with a Smith employee whom I've never seen before. And the man asked me, we were wondering why you're here.
Kanute, still emotional over it all, says she was very nervous and overwhelmed after the incident.
It just still upsets me to just talk about it because I don't even feel safe.
The story of racism at Smith College went viral. There were headlines in the New York Times and Washington Post and outlets across America, and all uncritically accepted Kanute's claims that she was a victim of racism. They validated her unfounded claims that she had suffered from a pattern of discrimination and felt her life was in danger. Smith College President Kathleen McCartney not only called Kanute to apologise, but she placed the working class people, including the elderly janitor, on leave and issued this statement. This painful incident reminds us of the ongoing legacy of racism and bias in which people of colour are targeted while simply going about the business of their ordinary lives. She also launched an investigation into the incident. That thorough investigation found that not only was there no racism, but Kanute was indeed trespassing and had accessed an area close to college students for the summer. Only young children attending a summer camp were allowed to use the building's cafeteria. The 35-page report concluded that the janitor, security officer, cafeteria workers had done nothing wrong or in any way motivated by race. So the investigation found no evidence of racism or patterns of discrimination. But nobody cared anymore. The media and race hustlers got the thrill of another systematic racism story, and the privileged young woman who went from an elite boarding school to an elite leftist college got to play the downtrodden victim. Sure, the lives of the working class plebs was ruined, but hey, these are people whose annual salaries are less than the cost of tuition at Smith College. To the elites, they simply don't matter. The innocent workers who were branded racist and subjected to terrible abuse and even threats never got apologies, despite the report's findings being released more than 2 years ago. 2 of them had worked at the college for more than 30 years. But none of that mattered when they were falsely accused of racism. The only reason that we know this whole eating while black catastrophe is fake news is because a reporter called Michael Powell revisited the story this week and asked about that investigation's findings. So not only were those poor workers not apologised, get no apologies from the college president, but she still claims that race played a part, saying it's impossible to rule out the potential role of implicit racial bias. So the staff at Smith College are still, to this day, having to undergo anti-bias training where they are taught to examine their white privilege, even if they're a cafeteria worker on minimum wage.
The audio clip is less than 60 seconds, long enough to completely upend a Baltimore area high school. In it, a voice is heard making racist remarks about black students' academic performance and anti-Semitic complaints about Jewish community members. For months, parents, teachers, and students believed it was a racist rant by Pikesville High School principal Eric Eiswart. But today, officials revealed that voice was generated by AI, and they've arrested the school's athletic director, 31-year-old Dazon Darian, for allegedly creating it.
Detectives allege Mr. Darian, who was the athletic director at the high school, made the recording to retaliate against the principal who had launched an investigation into the potential mishandling of school funds.
Police say Darian was arrested today while trying to board a flight to Houston, initially taken into custody for a gun in his bag when police discovered the outstanding warrant. He's now charged with disrupting school operations, along with theft, retaliating against a witness, and stalking. The clip was first circulated back in January and quickly went viral.
I, as a parent, am horrified, and as a rabbi, I'm quite disturbed.
It's hard to pay attention in class because, everybody was talking about it.
At the time, the principal denied ever making those remarks. Officials say the clip had, quote, profound repercussions, leading to the principal's temporary removal from the school. A fake recording with very real consequences, all sparking new concerns around the growth of AI.
This week, an Indian-owned store in Charlotte, North Carolina was set afire, a rock thrown through the window, and a racist note left behind. It read, quote, "We need to get rid of Muslims, Indians, and all immigrants." It was signed, White America. This week, police arrested an African-American man after surveillance video showed him lighting the fire. In January, a black waitress in Virginia claimed a customer wrote on the receipt, quote, "Great service, don't tip black people."
Shocked. Very, very, very shocked.
The customer later maintained it was written by the waitress who was upset over her 1-cent tip for bad service.
The list of hate crime hoaxes is long. Now we must add this one to the tally. According to the Air Force Times, a black cadet admitted to writing the slurs, and he's since left the school. So what's the response when we see stories like these exposed as hoaxes? It's never as huge as the initial response was when we assumed that it was real, which only encourages more hoaxes. For the outrage over the crime is the only part the press seems to remember, not its debunking, which encourages the copycats, which is why we're doing this now, so people don't keep thinking this kind of thing pays off.
We have breaking news just in on a story that we brought to you earlier tonight. We told you about a 20-year-old Louisiana woman who claimed to have been attacked and set on fire by 3 men. Police just announced that the story was fabricated and that the burns were self-inflicted. Sharmika Moffat told police that she was walking through a park when she was attacked. She said that a group of 3 men wrote the initials KKK and a racial slur on the hood of her car.
An article posted on the Newswatch 33 website says 2 black teenagers were beaten to death by white supremacists in Myrtle Beach over the July 4th weekend. But police and city officials say nothing like that actually happened.
Well, there's no reason for that to exist. It's false. It's made up. I can't explain that.
Crua says, unfortunately, some people will believe the hoax. So Myrtle Beach police had to post on Facebook and Twitter, this story is false.
Victim to suspect. Jussie Smollett charged the stunning accusations against the Empire star. Hello, everybody. I'm Denise Koch.
And I'm Vic Carter. He's accused of staging what he called a homophobic and racist attack because he was dissatisfied with his Empire salary.
Jussie Smollett is indicted after turning himself into Chicago police overnight. Kenneth Craig reports for WJZ he is now charged with filing a false police report.
Former NFL player Edon Kaufman has been charged with staging a fake hate crime in Georgia. Gwinnett County Police say Kaufman damaged his own business's property and spray painted racial slurs, a swastika, and MAGA around the establishment to get insurance money, saying in a statement, quote, "It appears as though Edon conjured a premeditated plan to damage his own property, attempt to make it appear as a hate crime, file a claim with his insurance company, and sell off the undamaged appliances and electronics."
Director of Resident Life at Viterbo University says before being placed under arrest, Unanka, quote, had already messaged a friend of hers that she was potentially a victim of another hate crime because of the fire next to her dorm room. Unanka reportedly gave police an account that differed from the video footage before admitting she was responsible for the fire. In the criminal complaint, Officer Daniel Howe says, "I interviewed Victoria and she admitted to intentionally setting the fire in the second-level lounge for attention purposes. Victoria was placed under arrest for arson and negligent handling of burning materials." The fire happened as Viterbo officials were investigating racist and anti-LGBTQ messages that were put in one of the resident halls. The director of campus safety says Unanka was the victim of a couple of other alleged racially motivated hate crimes that happened in the weeks leading up to the fire.